We're back, and it's COMP100, and it's week 6, lesson 6, part 2. And we're going to kind of do a little bit of an intro to looping, and then we're going to stop. And then we're going to do our little assignment for today. Okay? So let's talk about this a little bit. What is looping anyway? We talk conditional statements. Conditional statements give us a chance to control our program flow, right? We can kind of say, if this, then do that, right? But our program flow so far stops. Starts off, we do some output or input, and it's over, right? And we have to run the program again, over and over again, in order for us to get multiple loops happening. But we have a looping structure, and a loop is really what it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a structure or a block of statements that repeats, right? So, in other words, let's say I want to output, or I want to keep testing a condition over and over again until that condition changes, right? That's what a loop does. It keeps testing that condition until something changes. There's different kinds of loops. There's the while loop with a while keyword, the for loop, which is probably the most common loop that we use in all languages, the for loop, right? And then the do loop, which is actually very uncommon. We don't use that very often at all. So from a commonality perspective, the for loop would probably, in my experience, be number 1. Then we do the while loop, which is also pretty common. And the do loop would be the least common. Okay, those are the 3 major types of loops. There's others as well, but we're not going to cover them, I don't believe, in this course. I think we'll cover it in course 2, programming 2. So here's how it looks. You've got your condition, right? So if, just like we said, if this is greater than whatever, then loop through the body of the loop. Comes back. Is it still true? If the condition is still true, do a loop again. Is it still true? Do a loop again. Do all the same expression over and over again. You're going to keep doing the same. What was that? Never gets tired. And it keeps going over and over again until this expression equates to false. And when it becomes false, it stops looping. So it stops executing the same statements over and over again. So when I say execute, it means it runs those statements. I put the statement in, and I can put the same statements in the loop, and it'll keep doing those statements over and over again, forever and ever, until I stop. So this is what a flow chart looks like. Remember, there's a decision that we're going to make, a decision tree, as an example, and it says, hey, either go left or right. If the direction is left, then do this. If the decision is right, then do loop. Whatever, that's the condition. And if you're always going right, keep looping, right? So the while loop is a very popular loop, and what it checks is, there's a couple of things to know about it. You have to check the condition at the top of the loop, right? And while the condition is true, anything within the code block continues to execute over and over and repeats. So basically, we're able to reuse our code instead of write it again. Like there's different ways of looping, right? I can write the same code over and over again, right? Keep going down. I can put 600 lines of code straight, the old way. There was no loops before, right? Just keep writing code, 1,000 lines of code, and you have some areas that keep repeating. It's the same code as you saw previous, right? But if I want to repeat my code, a section of code, over and over again without rewriting it, I use a loop. Okay? Here's a problem with the while loop. The while loop has there's a problem with it that if you don't end it, it can become an infinite loop. It'll never stop. And you can't, it'll crash your program. It'll eat your memory. It'll turn off your battery. It'll do all kinds of bad things with an infinite loop. It's called also memory leak, right?
That's annoying. That's like a lot of, probably causes a lot of problems.
Well, it can. That's why we have something called a loop control variable. Sometimes it's called a Sentinel variable. And then we put that before the loop, right? We initialize the loop control variable before the loop. And then inside the loop, we either increment it or decrement it. Okay, we'll talk about, remember the incrementer, plus, plus, and the decrementer, minus, minus, right? We can use that, or we can say, whatever the control variable is, we can set it go to stop. We can test to see if that control variable is greater than a certain number. Here's an example.
I was going
The number is 1. That's what we're testing. My limit is 5. It starts at 1, right? If my number is less than my limit, which right now, if my number is 1 and my limit is 5, is this condition true or false? False? So my number is 1 and my limit is 5. If number is less than limit, is it true or false? True. Go here, right? Write hello. Then my number is equal to my number plus 1. Increment my number. Now my number is 2. Is my number less than 5? Yes. Write hello. Again, second time. Add 1 to the number. My number is 3 now. Is my number less than 5? Yes. Write hello. So it works, right? Now my number is 4. Is my number less than 5? Yes. Write hello. Let me keep doing this. All right, increment my number. Now my number is 5. Is my number less than 5? No. False. Stop looping. We keep doing that test. That test that we just did, I know it's tedious and it's like painstaking and annoying the way I did it, but that's what the computer does. It'll keep testing that condition over and over and over again until the condition changes. If the condition never changes because you forgot to do something about it, it'll loop infinitely and it'll crash your machine eventually. Yes.
Can't you put a limit of how many loops it goes?
That's a different loop. This is a while loop. Let's give an example of that in code. So I've got my static void main. This is how it looks like in code. My number starts off as 1. I have a constant that I declare. Remember constants? The limits. Constants, or a convention with constants is to make them capitalized like this. My limit is 5. While my number is less than limit, which is true. Right now it is, because number is 1 right now. It's less than 5. Console.writeLine hello. Number is equal to number plus 1. So it increases the number and it keeps doing this. It'll increase the number, it'll loop and print this hello 4 times. Let's try it. So I'm going to open up a new kind of document. So I'm going to go close this one off. File, new project. We'll make it a console application. And we're going to call this COMP100 lesson 6. Lesson 6, part 2. Okay. COMP100 lesson 6, part 2. Okay. And I got to create another GitHub repository. So it's going to be COMP100 lesson 6, part 2. Okay. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take the URI from it. And remember, so far I haven't asked you to connect to GitHub or even update GitHub or load it on GitHub or anything like that with GitHub. Today we're going to ask you to do that for marks. Okay? So if you watched me over and over again, I'm going to help you out. Don't worry. All right. I'm going to go to Home. I'm going to go to Changes. I'm going to start saying things like initialized or created base project, some kind of initial snapshot message. Created base VS, Visual Studio, C# project. That's what I usually put, something like that, right? Commit. And now I'll sync up. I'll sync up with, by putting in my URL in there, clicking publish. Cool, cool. Okay, now I'm connected. So COMP100 lesson 6 part 2, I'm ready to go. We're talking about looping. So let's do that. Okay, so let's start off, instead of my we'll create something called a game loop, right? So right now, we'll say that if my game loop, right now it's equal to true. So we'll call it Boolean variable, and we'll say game loop, call it game loop, right? And we'll start it off as true. Okay, so my game loop is true. Yeah? Okay, we'll also do this. We'll also make an integer, and we'll say, we're going to loop 60 times. So int, we're going to say a count. We're going to count. Okay, we're going to count to 0, right? Make sense? Count to 0. A couple of counters here, and then we're going to do a while loop. While, now I can do this. game loop is equal to true, right? We saw a very simple example. Then do this other stuff. We're going to do a console.writeLine. In this particular case, we'll say playing. And not only that, we'll say playing, but we'll concatenate count. So we'll say playing count, and we'll concatenate, or we'll do a stand-in value for count. Right, like that. So this will start off playing count 0, playing count 1, playing count 2. We'll keep going, right? Right now it's count 0. And it's always going to be count 0 unless we increment this loop somehow. So we say count plus plus, which basically says take count and add 1 to it. The other way around count plus plus, what's the 3 ways to increment count? There's 3 ways to do it in code. They're all the same. Count plus plus, increment count by 1, right? How about this one? Count plus equals to 1, right? Also do the same thing. Increment count by 1. That's a short form. How about this one? Count is equal to count plus 1, right? Increment count by 1. So all those 3 things increment your count by 1. They're all equivalent. These three lines. This one, so line 19, 20, and 21, they all do the same things. They increase the count, the number of count by 1. Okay? We only want to do one of them, and I like using count plus plus because it makes sense. So count plus plus. Now I'm going to put an if statement. Okay? So I'm going to put 2 things. Here's my game loop. I'm checking to see if my game loop is true. And right now it is, right? It's going to stay true forever right now the way it is. Because it starts true. There's nothing to stop it from true. So will this be an infinite loop the way I've written it right now?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It'll never stop because I've got nothing to stop game loop from being true in my code block, which is right here.
False.
Huh?
There's no false then?
There's nothing to make it false. Do you understand that? Yeah?
That's sort of like a turn.
Was that?
So that's sort of like a do you understand?
Do you understand means if you don't understand, because we're going to move on to harder things, and if you don't get this piece, then we're going to have to loop back again. No pun intended. Well, no, we don't need a constant, right? We're increasing this count, right? Well, we can test this count. We can do a second condition if we want to, right? So, I mean, the way it's written in the book is we test the condition here, which we are testing. But we can also change the condition down here by doing something else. So we can say if count is less than or greater than, let's say greater than 50, so once it goes to 51, or we'll say greater than 30. Okay, so too many loops, we're going to see a bunch of these numbers come down the screen, right? Then what? If it's greater than 30, we check to see if count's greater than 30, and if it is, game loop is equal to false. Now we don't have an endless loop anymore. We have a condition that checks if count is greater than 30, then game loop is equal to false. Okay, but you're going to say this. You're going to say, well, I want to count to 30. Why am I doing this? And that's the trick, guys. I've got 2 conditions that I'm checking when I only need to check 1. Sometimes you see funny things written. Let's try this out anyway. See what happens. Boom. Why? Because we don't have any way of stopping it, so we got to put in the same thing as before. So console.writeLine. We're going to say please press any key to exit. And after that, we're going to do a console.read key, like that. Okay, please press any key to exit, console.read key. And that'll stop it from happening. Let's do another console, because console.writelines are free, right? They don't cost money. I like kind of saying that. All right, and we'll do one of these. And you know what else we have a problem with? We really have a problem with when we do this, boom, it goes really, really quickly. You see how quickly it went? Well, it's 2 I want to change my properties so you see it white again, because it's not a default. I'm going to go to console/20, press OK. So there, look. If you look at it, if I scroll up all the way, it starts at 0, and it goes all the way to 30. But as soon as it hits 30, we stop looping. So it keeps saying that playing count, playing count, playing count. Loop. It does those same statements. That's what a loop does. It does these same silly statements over and over again until something changes the condition to false. This is an example of something changed to false. But I don't need this to be written this way, right? In fact, let's take game loop out altogether. I don't have game loop anymore, right? And if that's true, all I need to do is check to see if count is less than 30, right? So if count is greater than 30, we want it to stop. So we say as long as count is less than or equal to 30, loop. It's the same thing. Watch. Right? Oh, we're missing a brace. So these lines do the exact same thing as the other line does with the other condition. Why? Because I'm checking, this is my condition. Is count less than or equal to 30? Yes, it is. It starts at 0. Okay, print this line out and increase count by 1. Okay, check again. Is count less than or equal to 30? Yes, it's a 1. Okay, print this out again and then increase count by 1. And keep doing that forever. You have to have this piece to initialize it. This is called the Sentinel Variable. This is the thing that is the initializer, if you will, right? And this is the condition right here. Condition to check. And then these are the lines that get repeated in here, inside the code block. They keep repeating over and over and over again. Guys, with if statements and looping, you can do so much. It's crazy because I can loop over and over again. Okay, let's check this out and see if it runs the same way. Boom. Goes to 30. It looks identical, right? From 0 to 30, and then you have the same numbers, right? If I made this something like this, if my counter, if this was wrong, so if I said something like this, if count is greater than 30, will I ever do this loop? Will I actually do this loop here? If I test for my count is greater than 30.
Yeah, I'll do it at 31, right?
It'll never do it. It checks this first line here, right, 15, and it says, is this condition true? It's like an if statement too. Yes?
Oh, it won't add the
It won't even do this part because it's not greater than 30.
Oh, okay. If we did
Right?
it the other way, it would have, right?
If we said less than 30, it'll do it forever. It'll do it until it comes to 30. But here, it won't even get here. The condition, remember we thought we did those circles? The set of all numbers that are greater than 30? Well, 0 is never going to be greater than 30, right? If a count is not going to be greater than 30 here, it's going to pass through this, it's going to read this statement line by line like this. Look, line 13, it's going to say count is equal to 0. Line 15, it's going to check. Is count greater than 30? No. Okay, skip to line 20. It's just going to do this. Let's try it.
You can also bring up the count to the outside of the brackets.
Show me. Where? What are you talking about?
What happens if you bring this down here?
Which?
The count, bring it outside. There's no condition. The condition's outside.
If I bring that outside, it doesn't do anything to me. It only increment it once.
Oh yeah, because that's okay.
It only does it once. The only reason why this increases all the time is because it's inside the loop. Every time it loops, it increases 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. Keep doing it. Right now, it's not going to ever go to that loop. So this is the condition. So the while loop, the great thing about the while loop is it tests to see if the condition is true from the very beginning. And if it's not true, it won't even go there, right? If it's true, if the while loop is true, it'll loop until that condition changes. Hence, an infinite loop. Let's try and do an infinite loop. Okay? We'll do one so you can see what happens. I'm going to have to break out. Here's an infinite loop. If I say count is greater than 30, right? So this is another thing. How about this? If I say count is not equal to 30. Is count not equal to 30? Right? Here I'm looping. I'm increasing this count, right? What if I just take this count off like this? So I'm never increasing it. It stays at 0. Is it not equal to 30? And it keeps going to check. It's not equal to 30? Not equal to 30? It's always not equal to 30, and it's always going to remain 0 forever, right? It's going to print zeros all the way down the screen forever. It's not going to stop. Watch. Infinite loop. It's going to keep going until my computer crashes. Infinite loop. So an infinite loop is bad. It's really bad because it'll go forever. It doesn't use a lot. Doesn't use a lot, but eventually it'll take a while because my computer's got a lot of memory too, right? But it'll take a while before it crashes. But it'll keep going. It'll keep looping forever and ever and ever. In some ways, an endless loop is good, right? Not an endless loop, but a long loop. Like for example, when we play video games, we have something called a game loop, a real game loop. And the game loop will keep going until the condition changes. Like for example, we're playing the game, and when we lose all of our lives, then the game loop ends. We check. If lives are equal to 0, then we end, break out, right? So really, when we play a game loop, we are doing a loop. We're just keep doing the same thing. We're checking to see if we're alive. If we're alive, are we alive? Are we alive? We're alive? Okay, keep playing. If we're not alive, end. Or go back to the menu screen, or whatever it's going to be, right? Okay. I'm not going to cover other type of loops. I want you to work with the while loop today, all right? And this is what the assignment's going to be, all right? So what I'd like you to do is I want you to create a menuing system, right, where the user asks for which choice you want to make. 1, just to start. 2, another option. And 3, to exit. If it's 1 or 2, right, it's going to keep asking the user for 1 or 2 or 3. And until he presses 3, it's going to keep looping. Okay? So what are the options? Is the light on or is the light off? Do you want to go forward, or do you want to come back, or you want to exit? As an example, right? Think about how you're going to write this thing, right? So we're going to ask the user for input. This is the first condition, right? So let's write this thing down so you can look at it on Blackboard, or sorry, eCentennial, same thing. So if I go to eCentennial, I'm going to log in. I'm going to go create a new Dropbox. Okay. And in there, I'm going to go to my Centennial. I'm going to write the conditions down for you. And this is what your, if you want to call it a test or a little assignment in-house today, is going to be. Very, very simple. There's going to be a few things to get. And it's either you get it or you don't. It's one of those. Okay, which is, it's good and it's bad, right? It's good because it tests your skills here and I can help you out with it. It's bad because if you don't understand, you don't get marks, which is bad. And I need you to get this piece, because if you don't get this piece, you can't move on. All right, so let's try, we'll create a new one. We'll call this assignment 3, and we'll call this, this assignment will include conditions, right? I want you to think about using, the case statement. I want you to use the case statement here, and while loop. That's all it's going to be, the case statement and the while loop, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that the category is assignments. So it's going to be an assignment. It's not going to be a test. I'm going to create a new grade item, right? It's going to be called assignment 3. That's what we do today. And the total maximum marks you can get is 5. The weighting is 5, right? As an example, I'm going to save this thing. So it's out of 5 marks, 5 full percent marks for this thing for today, right?
What about Lennon?
What about him? He can write it when he comes back next time, right, Lennon? And we're going to go to restrictions. It's going to have a due date. I'll make the due date so it's sometime next week. So if you guys can't do it, it's Friday. Yeah. Actually, you know what we'll make the due date today, just so I can track who's here. It's not really for anything else. And I make it so that it's for tonight sometime. So if you're watching at home, Lennon, if you want to try it tonight, you can. I'll make it so that's 11:59. Nope. Because I had lots of time for it already. Nice try. No extensions. Okay, so here's the instructions. So one is create a menu, right? Create a menu that asks the user if he wants to eat something, right? An example would be, would you like pizza, right? And then option two was would you like a burger, right? Or 3, exit, as an example. Okay, that's the third option. So 1, would you like a pizza? 2, would you like a burger? 3, exit. Example, right? If the user chooses 1 or 2, right, then output a statement like you are eating, and whatever the thing is. So, you know, a burger or pizza, whatever the thing is that you're eating, right? However, if the user chooses 3, then exit the program.
So the loop is.
Well, let's talk about this. So what I want you to make is a little menu that says the guy's going to eat, he's going to keep eating burgers and pizza forever until he presses 3. The final thing is test your output. Test your output with different cases. If the guy enters something else other than 1, 2, or 3, right? That's the other option. If the user enters something other than 1, 2, or 3, comma, tell him or inform him he has made an error and to make an appropriate selection.
We have to use this example.
And show the menu again.
Can you use this example?
What example?
The burger?
Yeah. I've told you what to do. You can see something like this. If you want pizza or burger, and exit. So in other words, if as long as the user chooses 1 or 2, then the output statement is like this, and then and this will keep happening. It'll also, sorry, there's another one. If after the message is given to the user, show the menu again. In other words, we're going to continue to show the menu. So we're going to say it's going to be like this. Oh. What happened there? However, so is that clear? So it goes like this. Let me just open this up so we can look at this together. So it says, create a menu that asks the user if he wants to eat something. So again, you can do more than 2 choices. You can go 1, 2, would you like a burger? I'll give you bonus points if you do 3, 4, 5, right? I'm saying, right? And then 3 would be an exit, right? 3 is exit the program. If the user chooses 1 or 2, then the output statement is like you're eating a burger, or you're eating a pizza, or you're eating a whatever, or you're drinking having a drink, or whatever you're doing, right? And then after the message is given to the user, show the menu again. So after you give him whatever he's doing, show the menu back again. Give him a choice to keep doing the menu over and over again until he presses 3 and then exit the program. And also, if he presses something else other than 1, 2, 3 are the choices you've given him, give him an error message and show the menu again. Say incorrect message, right?
How much extra points do you get for making it?
I don't know. First, let's see what you're going to do.
Okay.
First, do the thing you're going to do. So it's worth 5% of your mark to do today. We're going to do it now.
For the exit, like doesn't have to exit right away, or you just have to say press any key, like a right line and say press any key.
That's fine. Yeah. So right line, press any key, but it'll exit him out of the loop, out of the menu. It'll take him out of the menu completely. The menu's done. He won't go back into the menu afterwards. Okay. So again, I want you to create a new. Let me just add this in too. Sorry, one more thing I forgot. One more thing. For full marks, share your work on GitHub and submit a link to your repo in a text file. Right?
Can't we just put it in the message?
No. So what I want you to do now to start this off is I want you to create your project, right? Create your project. I want you to go, when you create your project, I want you to link it up with GitHub, right? And if you don't know how to do that, you need to do it this time around, because I've shown you a bunch of times how to do that, right? I'll go around and help you out, right? I don't mind. Connect you up if you need to with your computers, but I want you to share your link with me on GitHub, okay? So for now, for this particular one, I'm going to stop recording, right? And I'm going to see if you guys can do your work. And you can't help each other. You can use all the materials I've given you, everything that's online. You can Google it. You can do all kinds of stuff. But actually, I won't let you Google it. I'll allow you to use my PowerPoint presentations. You can use your current work, your assignment number 1 or assignment number 2 that you're using, right? And anything we've talked about in class, or my GitHub repositories. But you can't Google it and say, how do I blah, blah, blah. If you do that, it's 0. Otherwise, what's the point, right?